Hi, my name is Mandy McIntosh. I'm the owner of Prodigal Panda Writing and Social Science Center, and I'm also the author of an upcoming book called Who is the Girl at Sleeper Mortuary. Do have some information about its release date, and I'm going to give you the foundation of what this book is about today, so stay right there. So, the first thing I want to go ahead and get out of the way is I did my first TikTok video right around Christmas, and I did the big trend video where we talk about something that we should or shouldn't have done. And so at the end of that video, I put the release date of my book, which is supposed to be March 17th of 2026. And most of my book is written, however, with some breaking information that came to my attention around Christmas time. I am finding that I need to do some more research because I have the best conjecture of where the girl from the coffin might have come from. And I feel like because it's so, it combines historical information, paranormal information, psychic information, that it's a road I have to go down before I release this. Um, because of that, I am bumping the date to May the 1st of 2026, and hopefully I'm going to get a bunch of books read and finished up in the next couple weeks. I've been reading like crazy. So I wanted to go ahead and release that information, just let you know what the holdup is. It's not that the book's not ready. It's pretty much ready. It's that I found a new lead and it looks very, very promising. So, because it is going to take a little later, and I've already dropped some paranormal evidence of what I captured during my investigation, some places that I visited, there's pictures up on all my socials of that. I want to go ahead and tell you kind of what the book's about without spoiling anything. I will be releasing more and more as it gets closer to releasing the actual book, but I don't want to keep you waiting. So, I wanted to go ahead and let you know just what's going on and what this book is about. So the book is about a an Oddfellows coffin that is out in Iola, Kansas at the Sleeper Mortuary, which you can go and investigate, and I highly recommend you do. It's very, very active. Um, and it is about trying to discover who is inside the coffin and where this person ended up at. So let me start off by telling you how I got involved in that. I am a Patreon for Richard Estep, if you don't know him. He is a paranormal investigator, researcher, author, and you should definitely go check out his books. You've probably heard his name on Hulu's Fox Hollow Farm. So I Patreon his group, and he regularly has haunted hangouts, which is where he goes to a haunted location, and we get to hop on Zoom and get to see what is going on there at that location. And hear the stories and get to see some of the evidence and get to experience what he writes about in his books. So he announced that he was going to a new paranormal location, and I jumped on that. And the biggest reason was because my grandmother had just passed away several weeks prior. I lost my job 2 days after she passed away. I actually lost both my part-time and my full-time job 2 days after she passed away. And I had gotten hired back in at less than full time, and things were just pretty all around miserable. So I needed a project, I needed something because I was just laying in bed. And so I hopped on this. And we were not told where he was going because he said that he would allow us to do like a remote viewing. He was going to have MJ Dickerson, who is also big in the paranormal field, to do a remote viewing. So he offered the opportunity to us too, since he could not say where he was going. I have never done anything psychically in my life. I can feel some energy. I definitely see dead people, but psychic I am not. But I thought, hey, I can learn about this. It's something to do with my time, and I needed something to do with my time. So I did a remote viewing and then hopped on to the meeting. And It was a great meeting. I got to see the entire building, the Oddfellows coffin, what everything looked like. And Richard shared with me that he had gotten the EVP of the name Mary, and that happens to be my grandmother's name. I'm going to tell you more about the Oddfellows coffin in just a second, but it is of also importance that I was working on my articles on the medicine wheel that night. I have taught about the medicine wheel and spirit animals for years and years and years. Um, Usually use it as a reflection for volunteer work, to be honest. And I was writing the articles, which you can go check out on my website for free and see if you would like to get a medicine wheel report um, that night. And so that was of significance. And there was just a lot of other synchronicities that went on. And it took me about a week, but then I decided I am going to go find this girl. It's going to be a little difficult, but it shouldn't be impossible. I don't think I'm on a fool's errand, and I was very, very wrong. So it's been much more difficult trying to figure out who she is. But that's how things happen in paranormal land and in history. So it's not a journey that I see myself hopping off of anytime soon. And the purpose of my book at this point is to explore different options of where she might have come from by doing the legwork myself and finding the history that goes with it, to try to narrow down where she might have come from so that maybe one of you holds the key to finding out who the identity of this person is and where her final resting place may be. I do believe that she needs to be with her people if she is Native American, and so does the owner of the coffin. And we want to try to make that happen if she's not already with her tribe, or at least a tribe. So, let me tell you about the coffin. The coffin is an Oddfellows coffin. If you don't know the Oddfellows, they're a secret society, and they do have the male Oddfellows and the female Rebeccas. Sometimes they're separate lodges, and sometimes they're together. They've got a long history. They started in Britain, and what I have learned though is there are several different versions of the Oddfellows, and the Oddfellows in America are a little different than the ones in Britain. Um, the Oddfellows have been suffering from having low membership. And so you may not see as much of them in some places as once was, but I have found more and more that I'm finding their names on sides of buildings, now that I know about them and have looked. So supposedly this coffin, it had the remains of a 14-year-old Native American girl, and she was discovered in the mid 90s, and she was buried in Guthrie Center, Iowa, which is a very small town. And then the coffin was put back for some reason and not auctioned off until about 10 years later. It's only had one owner prior to Tori Westhoff, who's the owner of Sleeper Mortuary and the coffin. Um, and that person lives in Iowa. She purchased it in Guthrie Center at an auction, and she has had it since then till 2024, for approximately 20 years. So, what I can tell you is that the coffin does seem to match an Oddfellow ceremonial coffin. I've found three more like it that have been assessed as being Oddfellow ceremonial coffins. Now, you're probably, if you don't know the Oddfellows, wondering why we need a ceremonial coffin. And the reason is because their initiation process involved you being in a dark room and having these special goggles on, which you should Google because they're just wild looking. So you couldn't see. And you would be put face to face with this coffin, and there would be a real skeleton inside. The goggles would open, and you would be face to face with the skeleton. And the purpose was for you to think about your mortality and what you wanted to accomplish while you were here on Earth. Um, so nowadays, they do not use a real human skeleton. They use paper mache or plastic skeletons. I'm not sure when that switched over, but this coffin, its make is back into the late 1880s. And that is by comparing it to other coffins that have been assessed as Oddfellow coffins. Of course, the weird thing about this coffin is that it does very much so appear that not a skeleton has been in it, but a body that's decomposed. Um, We've had some differences of opinion, but looking at it, it does not look like any of the other Oddfellows coffins that have been found that have had just skeletons in it. But we have had somebody that does forensics also say that skeleton or bones could create something like that as well. There does appear to be bodily fluid in this coffin at Sleeper Mortuary as well. So that's also something that makes us believe that there was a decomposing body in the coffin. Um, so I thought for sure there would be a news story on it. And I also contacted the Oddfellows, and so they are still in Iowa. That part of the story is not true. However, from looking at the Secretary of State's database, we can see that between 80 and 100 lodges shut down and had their charters revoked back during this time frame of about 15 years, and even more so into the like 2013, 2014. The reason for this is that they are having a problem marketing themselves in a way that is appealing, I guess, to people of today. And so most of the members are very old. They are themselves becoming deceased. And so there's nobody left there to pay the bills, and they're behind on taxes, they're behind in lodge rentals and things like that. And so the the state chapter has revoked those charters and pulled them back in. And then they gathered up all of these things like the ceremonial coffins and they auctioned them off to try to afford some of these bills. That checks. Found who was likely the auctioneer house in Guthrie Center, Iowa. Unfortunately, the people who would have auctioned the coffin have both passed away since the time that this coffin was auctioned. Their son does still own the auction house. He's unfamiliar with the story, so there's no way to track that down. He did say that they worked with somebody from Indianola, and we managed to track him down as well, and he does not remember finding a dead body in a coffin. I feel like that's something you would remember. There's no news stories to support finding a dead body or even a skeleton in a coffin, which there are news stories everywhere about the skeletons being found in these lodges that have gone abandoned. So it just seems odd, and I think probably we're looking at this having been found and her probably having been buried back in the 1900s. Additionally, there are no unknown graves for this time period in Guthrie Center. I have pestered police officers, vital statistics, all the people. Now, if it was prior to like the 60s, then it may not be documented. But if it was in the 1990s, it would have been documented. And so there's no unknown graves. She would have had to have been put under a name. They wouldn't have been able to put a fake name on there. There's no Jane Does or John Does that are outstanding. And so that leaves us with where is she and is it a she and who is she? So my book is following different routes that a person may have ended up in this coffin. Now, I've mostly focused on Native Americans. However, I have explored some other options as well. Um, it does seem to check out historical wise that we would have used Native Americans. We used their bodies for medical purposes. They were taken by medical doctors and hospitals. They would put in orders to fur traders to go out and dig up Native American bodies to be used, which is something I didn't know about. You're going to read about Indian schools, which they are called Indian schools for a reason. They were not there to educate anybody or be culturally diverse. They were there so that we could take the Indian out of Indians and civilize them to be like white people. We cut children's hair off, which is important to Native American tribes. We tore them away from their parents. We made them speak English. We punished them if they spoke their tribal language. We dressed them up in white people's clothes, and we tried to force religion onto them and not accept their religion. So it's being called an Indian school for a reason. These were boarding schools. Some people went willingly. Sometimes they would come and literally tie the children up and take them. They would definitely use benefits for like food that the government was providing when they displaced the Native Americans. So they were having to decide between sending one child to an Indian school and being able to feed all the other children in the home. So you're going to learn about Indian schools in this book because there's a decent chance she came from an Indian school. There are so many things you're going to learn in this book about secret societies and not just the Odd Fellows at this point. You're going to learn about circus sideshows. The Sioux tribe was actually part of the Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus before it became the Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus. It was this Barnum and Bailey at first. So you're going to learn all about those things. But to update you on where I am right now with my best conjecture and kind of tell you how it matches the paranormal evidence, is that I went out and investigated the coffin. I did two medicine wheels actually with the coffin inside the medicine wheel. And the second night, we decided to do, I had a friend with me investigating, we decided to do the Estes method and also scry on a map and just see what we got. And so we did that. Apparently, because I was the person that had the ghost box in my ear and the blindfold on, doing the Estes method. And she asked, where are you? And I said Guthrie at the same time, which was very frustrating for me when I heard Guthrie on the ghost box because I had crawled all through Guthrie and found nothing. Um, so we then scried on the map, and I had like a little necklace thing with a point on it, a little pendant. So it's a crystal necklace. Scried on the map, dropped it, and started calling out names of cities around where it dropped. And when we got to DeSoto, I had all my equipment set up around the coffin already. I had tracker lights, EMF, REM pod, and every piece of equipment went off, which is crazy. I've never had that in 19 years as an investigator. I've never had every single piece of equipment go off. So I kind of figured that that was not paranormal, that that was just weird timing, and maybe a truck drove by or somebody turned on some equipment or something kicked on in the building. And so I waited a little while and I said, "So you want me to go to DeSoto?" And everything lit up again. And it happened multiple times. Um, we have some footage of it because during the whole time that I was at Sleeper Mortuary, my one camera, which was perfectly fine when we rolled out of West Virginia, would not work. It kept saying it was corrupted. The second camera was a brand new full spectrum camera that I purchased, and the little bit of footage I have is on that. Um, I propped it up to record us doing the second medicine wheel because it wouldn't work the first night. The second night, propped it up to record the medicine wheel, and we meditated in the medicine wheel because that's what you're supposed to do. When I looked up, it had been turned off, and I don't know when it got turned off or how. It's still part of the footage I'm reviewing. So I won't show you that here. You will be able to see a little bit of it. And then we said no big deal because the owner, Tori, has security cams through the whole building. So we had a camera right on us whole time. Great. Except suddenly her stuff got corrupted and she lost all the footage. So we don't have footage of every single thing that went down, but we do have audio of it. Um, so I will be eventually releasing that and trying to put it all into one video so you can kind of see and hear what happened. Um, I did not have DeSoto anywhere in my sights. And so I decided I needed to go figure out what was in DeSoto really quickly. So I hopped over down this huge hallway. We called it the Shining Hallway. It's just a really long hallway. You feel like you should see two dead twin girls at the end of. Um, Went all the way back in the other room and sat down and started looking through information on DeSoto. And every time I would say the word DeSoto from that far away, we would hear the REM pod go off and the EMF go off. And it was just crazy that we were getting this activity. I honestly had to check in with some paranormal buddies because I was like, I think I'm losing it. And like some of these people, Tori, she just met me. Like she's gonna think I'm crazy, and not in a good way because I am kind of crazy. Um, and she's like, "This is nuts. I've never had this happen." So I looked at DeSoto, and sure enough, there is a Guthrie Street running straight through the town. So everything abruptly changed, and we headed out to Iowa. I have been through so many graveyards, I couldn't begin to tell you. Um, the bad part is, even if she was in the 1900s and she was listed as unknown or Jane Doe when they buried her, most of the stones there from that time period are made of limestone and they're pretty much unreadable at this point. Um, Spent a lot of time trying to figure out like ones that looked like it might be something, taking pictures of them, changing light filters on them. The second trip, we even took out charcoal and went over and just couldn't get really anything. So it's a possibility we looked at an unknown grave while we were in Guthrie Center that is older and that we just couldn't read it. Um, However, um, we went to DeSoto, and before we went, I actually was looking on the 3D map, and the street, Guthrie Street, is right when you come into town and through the whole town, but right when you come into town, my remote viewing actually described the place there. I described seeing a field that should have been used for farmland, but wasn't being used for farmland. And it's not, but right behind it are the farms. I described a wooden fence. There is a big wooden fence. It's very similar to what I saw, except theirs is painted white and mine was not in my vision. I also said that the Underground Railroad had come through there, and according to documents that we found, it did come right through there. So that was interesting and horrifying for me at the same time. I've never done anything like that before. I have checked with the state archaeologists. Nobody has dug around on that street before or done any kind of excavation, so we really don't know if there's anything there or not. And of course, we visited every single cemetery in the city of DeSoto, Iowa. The very last one we went to, we actually didn't see, and it was one of the first cemeteries there, Oakland Cemetery. And I am going to play the clip for you, the audio. Um, I had a ghost box running. Now, what you're not going to hear in this clip is me running around the cemetery for the first like 10 minutes, explaining to the people residing there exactly what I was doing there and what I was looking for. But rest assured, I did that. And you are going to hear my horrible crocs going through the grass. But there was one grave there and one only that had an Oddfellows placard on it. And I apparently, amazingly, had a conversation with the man, and he told me that this girl was from DeSoto. And I asked where she was, and he said something that sounded like Oscott, Oscott, Oscott. Okay. So don't know where that is, but it was immediate, and I'm going to go ahead and play that for you now.
Is anyone here that could tell me about the Native American girl? Mr. and Mrs. Hall, would you be able to tell me about the Native American girl? Is she from DeSoto?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Do you happen to know her name? Guys, this for reference. I'm standing at an Oddfellows grave here. I just recorded it on my real phone. We're kind of out of equipment with battery at the moment. Mr. Hall, could you tell me where to find her?
Postcard.
Olscott?
Of his.
Okay, so with that, I came home and tried to figure out what on earth was being said. And as I've reviewed my evidence, this word was said to us by a different voice while we were at the mortuary. Um, and then at home, I decided to run a ghost box session and work with some crystals and got the exact same voice that I heard in Oakland telling me, "Oh, Scott," again. And so it was very frustrating because couldn't find any place that matched what I was hearing. And had other people listen to it and they heard slightly different things, but those letters just weren't in there. Um, and I finally found the city of Ascot, Iowa. And so we decided to do a second trip out and run through a bunch of graveyards. We had several pieces of information, and I spent several weeks trying to find graveyards that would match that information for us to just run through with equipment, feet on the ground, and see if we could figure out or get any more clues as to who was in the coffin. So before I went, I have had what I believe to be an odd fellow with me for a little bit. And I don't think he really wants to be with me. And he has been a little hostile here and there. And by that, I don't mean that he's like clawing, physically harming. Like he disconnected my internet, and the internet people were in awe. They just sat there and looked at what had happened like forever, and they're like, we don't, this doesn't happen. We don't know how this happened. Like they had actually unscrewed in a locked box the part of my internet that makes it work. And so I was having a lot of activity that weekend. Um, Go figure. So he's like, I don't know. He's just ticked off. He's not like hurting people or out to get anybody. Um, but I picked him up along the way. And so I was actually trying to talk to him. Now, my apartment, which I'm in right now, was also part of Native American ground and probably burial ground here in West Virginia. And that would have been the Shawnee tribe. And we did have them communicate with me prior to leaving for the mortuary. And I've actually since found out that they actually also were in the Iola area as they were being driven west. And so I did reach out to see if they could help me anymore. And I'm going to play that clip for you now.
Or are you just here because this is where you hunted? Am I supposed to go to Ascot? No way.
So for me,
There's no way that just happened. I don't even believe that just happened. I need to go to Ascot?
So we decided we needed to go to Ascot. And I will tell you, Ascot was pretty crazy. but I didn't see how it helped my case any at all. Um, but it was pretty wild. You'll read about it in my book. I don't think though that words do it justice. Um, but very, very definitely something on your back creepy out there. Unfortunately, Escott is a farming community basically, and it doesn't really have any cemeteries that we found, at least that are advertised or marked on any map. And when we were out there, pretty much all we saw were farmlands, farmers and their houses. So what I had done was picked cemeteries close to Ascot, one of which was Fairview Cemetery. And I really, really thought that it was a small cemetery. I didn't look at it before we left. There was one stone that was supposed to be in there that has been chiseled out. Nobody seems to have knowledge of the stone, even though there's an article on it, still tracking that down. Um, and so we decided to go out there. Now, in preparation for this trip, since I'm doing weird things that I've never done before, I have a massage therapist who does Reiki, and I asked her, can I bring in some crystals that are good for like third eye chakra, meditation, astral travel, that kind of stuff, and just see if you or me pick up anything while we're here. And my reason for doing that was because since we came back from Iowa, I have dreamed about a cemetery. There for a while, it was almost every single night. Um, it was a huge cemetery, and I was running through it. I was being chased, but didn't see who was chasing me. There was a Native American on a horse in my dream, and I am running. And I am able to even pick out some of the tombstones and saw a name on one of them. So I wanted to see if we could figure it out because I kept telling everybody, I'm in Oakland, but it's not Oakland. This is a huge cemetery. It's got a hill to it. Oakland didn't have that. Oakland's not that big. And Oakland, if you need me to recap, because I am kind of all over the place with my story here, is where we talked to the odd fellow who confirmed that the girl was from DeSoto. And so there is another Oakland cemetery in Iowa, and I went and I looked at it and I said, that's not where I'm at. And so we did the Reiki session together, and she was able to see some different things. She was not able to work on my third eye chakra at all. She said it was on fire. She couldn't stand to touch it, and my feet were literally burning so bad, like we could feel it through there. She described things that made me think she was in Guthrie Center, Iowa. And I told her, well, I'm in Oakland, that's not Oakland again, and I don't know where I'm at. So we go to Fairview, and this is during the time change, and it got really dark really fast. But I was under the impression that this was a small cemetery, so I thought we'll just run out there, check it real quick, and then, get on home, or back to the motel. And so we got there, and as we came through the gate, first of all, realized this place is huge. There's no way we're doing this tonight because it's on a hill and it's pitch black, and we don't have all the equipment we need to do that. And then, second of all, I realized it was the cemetery from my dream that I dreamed, and I was actually able to tell my friend, hey, turn here. There's going to be a tree stump that is a tombstone, has the name Prescott on it, and that's where I run, and there's a tree over to the side, and like I'm describing it, and then we roll up on it. And again, I've never done anything like that before in my life, and so that was wild. Um, we went back to the motel, made plans to come back down there the next day. And I did a medicine wheel at the motel and woke up with 44 names of unknown people that were at the cemetery, where before I only knew of two. I did that in my sleep. I don't recall doing it. I don't remember anything. But I did wake up with it. And then I also said when we went out there, I think she's in section BD or whatever it is that I'm trying to find. It's in section BD. And I know that sounds crazy because C should be in between those two things, but BD is what I keep seeing, BD. And so as we're driving back out there, I'm a little more awake because we have been several places before going to Fairview. So I'm awake now, and also it's daylight, and I'm seeing things better. And my cousin has we went looking for Mothman, and he did this crazy thing where he just yelled ghost shark randomly all the time. I actually didn't realize it was a real fish. I just thought he made it up out of thin air. And there just happened to be a skeleton riding a skeleton shark as someone's Halloween decorations as we were driving. And I said, "Stop, I've got to get a picture of that for my cousin." And I hopped out of the car to take the picture. And as I was walking back to the cemetery, this house caught my eye, and it looked exactly like what my Reiki massage therapist had described to us. Um, and so I noted that, but then as I was walking, because it's literally here, and then you go across the street and you're at the cemetery. And I realized as I walked into the cemetery, I came in on Oakland Road. It comes down this way and into the cemetery, and I didn't realize that the day before. So Oakland, and we have the house over here. So when I got home, I started doing some research on that house. It's a historical house. And I have been able to link it to a judge that is linked to an orphanage that has a bunch of missing children. And that case was pretty much just laid to the side and let go. And that's just the one that I found with four children. I have found so many more that I don't know the outcomes of. This judge was brought up for impeachment. He did run for a congressional seat. So we do have a lot of information about him, and I don't want to make him out to be a horrible person, but so far I'm not really liking what I'm seeing as far as historical documentation is concerned. Now, he lived in this house, but he also was the judge over in Omaha, which is just over the bridge. Um, so I've really been focusing on him. Now, where the rest of my research comes in is I read a book around Christmas time about a secret society from Minnesota that were Oddfellows, and they basically formed this other society. Not every single person that was in it was an Oddfellow, but the big guys were. And they basically made a ritual, a pledge to go kill the members of this tribe that was in Minnesota until they managed to drive them out of Minnesota to take their land, of course. Um, and they succeeded. Now, how we know about it is that they were so proud of the ritual that they did, and the Oddfellows were leading a ceremony to do a time capsule. That the head guy was part of the head Oddfellows, and he put the ritual, we have it in its written form, inside the capsule that was just unearthed a couple of years ago. So we know exactly what happened there. Now, it just so happens that that particular tribe got ran down through Des Moines and DeSoto area on the river. And it just so happens they ended up very close, if not right in the area of this graveyard. And it just so happens they also went over the bridge into Omaha because they were literally starving to death. They're not a tribe that was on my radar at all. Now, when we were there at the mortuary and I was asking the person of the coffin what tribe they were from, they indicated through an EMF detector that they were from the Sioux tribe. It just so happens that this tribe is a Siouan tribe. And it just so happens also that they were right beside the Lakotas. Now, I will tell you, I did see a girl when I did the Native American medicine wheel. I saw her the second night. I did not see her the first. Um, I do not know if she was from the tribe that I've asked to help me here and she just showed up, or if she is the girl with the coffin that I saw. However, I've tried to trace back the period dress of what I saw, and it does seem to more closely match the Lakota tribe, which was right beside this tribe in Minnesota, and they likely had intermarrying going on. We also got the word Blackfoot before we went out to the mortuary, and we had another investigator on this case who got the word Blackfoot in his sleep at the same time I was getting it on the ghost box in West Virginia. This person in Iowa got that same word and woke up saying it over and over again. Called Tori. Tori got a hold of me the next morning and asked me if I knew anything about Blackfoot. And I said, that's crazy. Just a few hours before, we got the word Blackfoot on the ghost box. And as I looked into it, there is a tribe of Blackfoot Sioux, is basically what their name is going to translate to. And they are right in that area with this tribe and the Lakota tribe. And of course, they are Sioux. So all of those tribes were basically moved. Um, there was things going on with the Dakota War as well. And interestingly enough, one of the other things I've gotten in a dream was Red Cloud. Red Cloud was a Sioux Native American chief that fought a lot of the wars and had relatives at the ghost dance with the tribe that would have been very close to where all this was happening as well. So I need some time to figure out if or where Red Cloud fits into this and to learn about this new tribe that was nowhere on my radar. We knew that General Sioux were in the area, and the Meskwaki Fox and Sax tribes are in the area. Now, the Fox and the Meskwaki are the same tribe. The Fox was a clan of the Meskwaki, and some settlers got that mixed up and made the Fox their own tribe. But they're all on the same settlement, and it is a settlement, not a reservation. Um, Iowa doesn't recognize the Sioux, but of course we've got Sioux City and everything up in there. They had an Indian school up in there, so we know that they were there and in that general area. So those are the two that we were looking at, and we were not really looking up here because we did not know that they got chased down through Iowa. So I don't know anything about this tribe, and they actually even changed their name. So even if I had researched the tribe, the Winnebagos, I wouldn't have realized that those were the Ho-Chunks. So I need to learn about this tribe and I need to see what happened to them down in Pottawatomie County. I also have some links to some other secret societies and some interesting evidence there. To me, it's really explained a lot. It makes sense to me, and it incorporates everybody's visions. It incorporates history and it incorporates all the paranormal evidence that we've had. So, this is going to be an incredible book. And if you love history, you're going to love reading this because there's a ton of history in it. If you love paranormal, you're going to love reading this book as well. Richard Estep has a book coming out. I'm not sure exactly when it's going to drop, but he's released the cover of it. And I know it's going to drop very soon. So you should go check it out. He investigated the entire sleeper mortuary. I will tell you, the basement is wild down there. We investigated a few different places with Tori, but my focus was on the coffins. So, like, I didn't get to investigate the chapel. Crazy energy in that chapel, though. So I wrote a little bit about my investigate. Well, I wrote chapters about my investigation, but I didn't get to investigate very many other places. Mine's really focused on the coffin. So if you want to read about all the different happenings at Sleeper, you should definitely check out his book. Go ahead and hit subscribe here on YouTube and check out all my social medias. If you hop over to my website, link in the description, you will see all my social media accounts. I'm going to be posting more evidence there closer and closer to time of the book. You're going to be able to see some pictures already from the trip, some evidence from the trip. Um, Definitely check that out. And if you're a paranormal investigator, you should book with Tori over at the Sleeper Mortuary. It's really an active building. We were there for 3 nights. You will not be disappointed. Just magnificent activity. And also, she has got a really nice setup. She's got a full kitchen. You can cook while you're there. She's like taking care of staples like salt and pepper and everything. There's a fridge and working oven that by itself was an incredible save because we eat out a lot when we're traveling. And also, I got to investigate, well, not really investigate, but got to go through the tour of and hang out at a little bit at Malvern Manor, which is in Malvern, Iowa. While I was on this trip, Josh Hurd has lent his ear a little bit to this investigation, and he was actually the guy that's responsible for helping get that coffin down to Kansas. So definitely hop over and see them. I've got a video, and I probably will put some pictures up soon of the tour I did through there, and got to talk to one of the residents, I think, for just a hot minute, Gracie. Um, so you can check all of that out there. I will put links for Malvern Sleeper and Richard Estep's website all down here below my website in the description. And I look forward to talking to you more about my book soon.